All right, gentlemen, we're live. Want to welcome everybody to TMRW Podcast. Want to paint the picture. This is an industry podcast. This is all things sales. This is all things life. Nothing taboo. We want to cover it all. We've all been lifers in the industry, and I think everybody that we will bring on this podcast will have, in some way, shape, or form, an involvement with sales, and we want to learn from them all. So today, to start us off, I'm Kevin Robinson. This is Donnie McGinnis. We're industry lifers. And I want to welcome special guest speaker Tom Karren to the show, man. Tom, what's up, brother?
Hey.
How you living, man?
I'm good.
Good to have you. Good to have you. Donnie, how you feeling?
Amazing.
Yes,
Feeling amazing. Yeah, it's good to get this podcast going, and there's been a lot of asks, just like, hey, when are you gonna get a podcast going? When are you gonna get? Well, here it is.
It's here.
It's here.
We've had a lot of movement this last 8 months. We've been behind the scenes creating a lot. We're going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about Aveyo. We're going to talk about the new kid in town. Before we do, Tom, let's introduce you. Let's get these listeners a feel for kind of where you come from, what you're about. So,
Yeah.
Tom, where are you from? You're from McGrath, Alberta, Canada. Is that right?
Little town McGrath, 2,000 people. 1998 is when I first started going to school in Idaho. And then I
think I was 4.
You were 4?
I was 4.
Yeah, you're in diapers.
Just a
Yeah,
baby.
yeah.
So
Yes.
born and raised in McGrath, little town. My parents are still there. It's one of those towns where you're kindergarten through grade 12, same group of kids.
Same
so
faces, yep.
You watch each other go through puberty and
Same brothers and same sisters dating each other
second cousin
too.
you go to prom with. No, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved how I grew up working hard, grew up farming. That's kind of our roots. So had that work ethic and just kind of blue collar place, but love it. And then I went to school in Rexburg, Idaho, did a church mission, came back and got into this crazy industry.
And that's what I was going to ask. So how did you get in? So you made your way back from the mission, going to school, and did you just get recruited in Idaho? Is that when you were going to school?
Yeah, I was at the time working all crazy jobs. I was an early morning janitor, working at a potato factory in St. Anthony, Idaho.
So popular
Sun Globe,
in Idaho.
Potatoes.
Knew my way around a potato. Avid plasma donor.
Yes, sir.
Whatever it took to pay the bills. But essentially, a kid just knocked on my dorm door. I had just got home from a shift at the potato factory, and he was saying, hey, we're having an information meeting tomorrow night, free pizza, summer sales. I was like, I'm not knocking on doors, but I'll go get free pizza. So wrangled up my college roommates and said free pizza, and it was right across the street from where we lived, so it was an easy trek over. And I got hooked into it and decided to go give pest control a whirl.
So what were the main things being sold back? So that was what, 20?
This is 2020, or sorry, 2000.
So that was year 2000.
Yeah.
And so that's like, the industry's in its heyday, right?
Baby.
there. Yeah,
It wasn't
yeah.
even an industry.
It's
You know what I mean?
But that's the thing, man.
So new.
Those early goers, though, man, they're the ones that create. They just absolutely crushed it. So what was around this? So you had pest control. I'm sure alarms were still around. What was the competition?
That was really it. It was alarms and pest control were pretty much the two staples. And it was still new. It's not like now where every kid on campus has worked for some summer sale company.
Yep.
It's very few did it at the time. Yeah. And you made your decision whether you wanted to do alarms or pests, and I went the pest route and stayed in that for a hot minute.
So and you said you grew up farming, Tom. Like, was that your first experience with sales? Was door-to-door pest, or did you have a little experience to even want to dabble in that, or how did you come
Skinning
upon
potatoes?
That? Yeah. You sold potatoes door-to-door.
Looking back as a kid, I did a lot more sales than I realized. I was always hustling. I was always doing something. One thing that came to mind is we sold dry cleaning coupon books door to door, where you got to go pre-purchase your coupon books. I can't remember what it was, but you pay $10 for them and then you sell them for $20.
Okay.
Right, but you got to buy them in advance, so you got to sell them.
You got some skin in the game.
You got skin in the game. Yeah, I got to unload these.
Yep.
So I'd get my homies and we'd go pack up and go canvas neighborhoods selling coupon books. And then my freshman year in Idaho at Rexburg, I got roped into selling starving student cards door to door.
What's that?
basically just like coupon books again, to where you can go and say, I'm a starving student.
Yes.
I can't remember how much they were. Let's say $100.
I think those are still around, actually.
Starving student
Are they?
coupon
It
books?
might be an item
I
thing.
swear I've heard that before.
Hey, listen, if you are partaking in a starving student coupon book, if you're in that program, we got a job for you.
Yeah. Then I'd take a little rip off what my buddies would sell, and we'd go out and do that. And so, just looking back, I was always doing some sort of sales job, but nothing like official that I.
So it's in your DNA.
It's in my DNA.
Yeah, it's in. Who'd you start with in pest control?
It's called Eclipse Marketing.
Okay.
We sold for Orkin Pest Control. And that was really, there was only a few options back then for pests, but they were the biggest player in the game.
How was it working? Were they marketing for Orkin, or
just marketing for Orkin.
Okay, so they weren't in-house in the accounts.
No, not at that time. They were just a sales org, and Orkin was their facilitator. So they had a nationwide footprint, and my first summer I got stationed to the lovely Lancaster, California.
Okay.
You're from California, Donnie.
Yeah, I am.
You know.
I would never live there.
It was hot, not Palmdale, Santa Clarita, Lancaster, but that's where I got my start.
And that was pre Mondo saturation, right? So you guys went out there, and it was kind of green fields everywhere then.
Green fields. There was no iPads. I didn't even have a cell phone my first 2 summers.
Oh, yeah.
We'd log the homes with a red construction crayon on the curb. That's how we'd keep track of who was home and who wasn't.
Awesome.
Map books, Rand McNally map books, how to get around. So those were the good old days.
Awesome.
First day on the doors, how many did you sell?
I did great. My first day, I wore blue jeans. Showed up to the office a day early, and our branch manager handed me and my buddy some contracts and a polo, and went across the street and started slinging, and sold 2 my first night. And I'm like counting my cheese. I'm like, this is gonna be good, man. It's like 8 shifts
No
of
more-
potato
you said-
factory in one night.
You said no more coupon books.
No more
That's right, no
coupon
more
I'm going to
books.
eat those potatoes. I'm not going to peel them anymore.
That's right. Don't have to peel them now. I can buy them.
Yeah, I tasted the nectar of sales and what it could be, and kind of shifted my mindset of what I was capable of, and kind of just helped me kind of get my start.
Did you build with Eclipse? Did you stick around there for a while, or kind of what was the first few years in the industry for you?
I did 2 summers with Eclipse.
Okay.
I managed a team my second summer out in southern Florida, and did well in the recruiting space. I was just so excited. I had a great first summer, and came back and roped up 30 plus kids to come down with me and manage that team. Had a great summer.
Yep.
And then my third summer is when I partnered with my still today current business partner. His name's Shandon Cole, and he had a little pest control company going at the time called Safeguard Pest Control.
Where was he? Where was he stationed?
They were in Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Atlanta. Those were
Okay.
the 3 markets that they had.
How did you guys cross paths?
He had hunted me. I did real well at Eclipse, and we had been in a few recruiting battles. Being from Canada, I was tapping my friends I grew up with,
Yep.
and they had a few reps in Canada, so we're kind of going at each other over the same network of reps. And I had created a name for myself in the industry from recruiting and whatnot, and so we just kind of courted each other for a while and decided let's hitch our wagons together.
Better together.
Better together,
than
yes.
at odds. All right, that's
awesome.
that's what's up. And so that flourish you mentioned, you guys are still partners today, and more importantly, y'all were just inducted to the Door to Door Hall of Fame. When was that? You guys are in the Door to Door Hall of Fame, so you didn't just get in this space and tinker around. I mean, y'all have been in here. You guys have been playing hard. So when did that happen?
I think that was 2 years ago, and that was a cool honor. It was kind of fun to reminisce on my career. Been in it now 23 years, and to be recognized. I think more than anything, we're just the oldest 2 still going at it, and we better throw them an award. But no, it's cool.
How does that happen? How do you get into the Door to Door Hall of Fame? What do you got to do? I don't even know. I don't know the credentials.
I don't know. I think it's just you've been around a hot minute and done some cool stuff in the space, and
Yep.
and we've done some really great things in the industry, and proud of it, and built some massive organizations within the space.
Something to say about longevity in the door-to-door world, man. I think everybody deserves a medal. If you can, you passed 10
Might just
years.
be because that 20-year mark, get them up there.
Yeah. You passed 10 years, you deserve a medal. But you get past 20, man. Yeah, you get into the Hall of Fame, guaranteed. That's for sure. All right, that's awesome. So you got into the Door-to-Door Hall of Fame based off of what you guys did in pest control, right? And so if I'm not mistaken, and I think you've mentioned before that you've built and sold over 40? Is it over 40?
Over 40, branches that we built up. We were the service provider. It was in-house.
Yep.
And then we would sell those businesses.
So you've told me before your very first experience when you guys were building business and then you guys had an acquisition. I think it was from Terminex, right? And at the time, it was, I think, the biggest acquisition they had at the time, at least in pest control.
Yeah, biggest door-to-door acquisition they had
yeah.
at that time was Safeguard, the company I partnered with Shandon on. We built that up to 16 locations, and it was like a $30 million acquisition. So to us at the time, it was life-changing money.
Oh, 1,000%.
We had bootstrapped the business, kind of gone from rags to riches, and that gave us the ability to recapitalize, to be self-funded, and start going on from there.
So tons of first-time entrepreneurs in our space. It's not, I mean, I don't want to say it's not typical, but it's not common that your very first time out, you hit a $30 million home run. What went right between you and Shannon on that experience? What went right?
I would say that just we didn't have any outside capital, so we were forced to grow the business within the money that we had available, which was not much.
Yeah.
So we paid attention to everything, like every detail. We knew our numbers. We knew exactly what we were spending on chemical and trucks, insurance and wages, and had our numbers just dialed in, and we made good financial decisions. Not because we were so smart, just because when you don't have the money to do otherwise, you're forced to.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of my biggest lessons. Is our second company that we started together, we now had, in our minds, unlimited money to go do it. And
So you just come off this transaction, you got $30 million. You guys are talking about, let's go do this again.
Yeah, let's let it rip.
Saddle.
Yeah, I think I'm 27 at the time. I'm like, let's rinse and repeat.
And now all the trucks are brand new and shiny, and all the
equipment's
brand new out the box, and people are getting real good pay, and all the technicians
the best
are
of
paid.
everything.
Yeah,
everyone's eating good.
Yep.
And the timing of that, on top of having really too much capital to work with, we started in 2007 in Florida. It was during the housing crisis, and so a lot of valuable lessons in that. We were able to eke out of that time and sell that company. It's called Service Pro, and recapitalize, but really we broke even over those 3 years. So we had this big win, our first business, Safeguard. Service Pro, I was thinking we're going to double it up, right? Like, let's go. We've got funding, we've got momentum, but the economy was working against us, and we just made bad business decisions. We didn't pay attention to the
smaller details,
the details that made us great before. And so I'm really grateful to have had both of those experiences, to know, and that's what I've implemented in my businesses today, is from those lessons.
That's awesome.
Been in pest control as well, over the course of my career. And I remember as I was starting to get into building my first company, it was called Missy's Pest Control. It was way back in the day. I remember seeing the company that I'd worked with before is Moxie. I have a lot of good friends over there. You know Moxie really well. Worked for some guys over there and saw, the plethora of trucks and all the brand new wraps and all the incredible gear. And, I remember thinking day one that I had to jump in and do that. So I think a lot of first-time entrepreneurs will get into that. They don't have the financial resources, yet they still somehow try to take it out, and typically via debt, try to get those brand new bells and whistles and all those toys, and typically find themselves in a little bit of capital, a little bit of financial
dump money
trouble.
in areas that you can't quantify the ROI on, right? It looks cool, it feels cool, and you think it's going to drive your business, but it's real easy to bleed money away in areas that aren't giving you a return on it.
No,
It's funny that you say that though too, is because I think not only in the business mindset of things, but like for companies as a whole, but I think actually I know a lot of our reps in this industry do the same exact thing. They always have to have the fanciest car.
Oh,
they
that's
have
just
to have the new shoes, the new,
We got to keep them coming back,
awesome,
bro.
Which is awesome. Yeah, you got to keep. But it's like it's very rare you come across a culture or individual that is kind of on top of it in a sense of their finances, kind of like what you said with the first pest control company you guys did, right? Like, or they're making sure that they're saving some of this money, they're investing some of this money, and then they have their own personal fund. It's just funny. The whole industry kind of just has the same exact, like from a personal rep to a company has kind of the same reputation.
Dude, it does. And look, I'm not one of those like old school dude Debbie Downers.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, look, I'm totally down for dudes to go out and get money
Treat
and go out
yourself
and
a
treat
bit.
yourself.
Yep.
And like, look, you want to buy a whip that's like, you know, way
Do it.
outlandish in
Do
my eyes.
it.
Like, do it. But I would say like responsibly, right? Like if you're, you know, going out and spring on things and it like really severely dents your bank account, I would say wise up and figure out like the time and the place to do it, right? Like I'm all day for, and again, I think that's the key lesson there, right? Is like, no, man, you guys bled that first time. You guys strapped it up and you made it work. And then
we wore a lot of hats. We didn't, you know,
countless. And the
weren't
outcome
above
is
things.
right. And the outcome of this is like, yo, you get a $30 million transaction, and it's like now you have the ability to go and, you know, do some things like that.
For sure.
And you know, maybe make some more expensive mistakes because you have the money to do it. Again, I'm just saying that timeliness is a thing.
Yeah.
All right, Tom, let's stay on track for me because I want to talk about, you know, you've got a brand new project here. We have a brand new project here.
Yeah.
You know, I want to talk about it, but I do want to, you know, you've been in pest control, still in pest control, still operating, have a ton of businesses there, still rocking and rolling. But more recently, about almost 3 years ago, you transitioned a portion of your sales force into the solar world. One, why? How did that happen? What was that whole thing?
Yeah. I really didn't want to be honest. I was had a good thing with pest control, know the space, know it inside and out.
And why would you? You know,
yeah,
especially
we were
if it's
good.
just rolling.
It was rolling. We're doing great. We're making a lot of money.
Still got a big old block of cheese there. You're eating.
Yeah, it's a great business. Still love pest control. Love it. It's my heart. Believe in it. I don't think pest control is ever going to go away. And then
it's great business, great industry.
Yeah, good annuity, just great. Yep. But couldn't ignore the new shiny toy solar that came and took the industry by storm. And really, it was a defensive play. I was bleeding out my top talent. You know, guys that have worked with me 6-7 years. They had made a ton of money in the space. They'd go out on these blitzes and make just insane money. Yep. And, you know, of course, I'm like, this is a flash in a pan. This is just another wave. I've seen 2 solar waves in my career that just stay on the boat, boys. You know, try to recruit against it.
Yeah, right. Keep your head
but
down,
I couldn't in integrity do it anymore because I'd see how well these guys were doing.
Yep.
And so decided that Vantage was going to pivot and start another arm called Vantage Solar. And start out as just a sales org and try to take a bite into this industry and see what it's all about. And that was 3 years ago. And that's kind of how I got rolling into it.
So let's because same idea over here. You know, we were in satellite TV, still are in satellite TV.
Yep.
Phenomenal business. We know it like the back of our hand. But I will tell you this for sure. We felt the need, we felt the urge, and everybody and their mother was talking about it. Reps were talking about it, excited about it. We knew we had to participate.
You can't ignore it.
Yeah, that's what it was. Is more out of necessity. I don't know that it was necessarily interest, but more out of necessity at the time. Now it's absolutely both. But talk to us a little bit about your first experience in solar, man. What was it? Was it rocky? How was it? We
were so in over our head. I was in over my head.
Yep.
You know, it was black and white from what I was used to, and we just chipped away at it, made the mistakes, still do. But I was lucky enough to be able to attract a lot of the leaders that I had lost to the space to get back now that we had a platform, a playing field for them to dance on, right? And so...
Which, Tom, like, dude, kudos to you and your team, man, because it's not always easy. Once you lose reps that, you know, go to another company to get them back, that just shows, you know, how much of a leader you and your team were to be able to keep that culture and that emotional tie to keep that relationship so that they do come back.
Yeah, and that came with maturity. It wasn't easy to watch these guys walk away.
Sure.
You know, I've been in the trenches with them hundreds of hours together. You know, we're brotherhood, and to see that, you know, come to an end, but knew I loved them more than as people, more than just trying to convince them to stay in something that maybe their heart wasn't into. Yeah. And so I'm super glad that I didn't burn those bridges, and we kept that relationship intact. But in hindsight, what a blessing that they could go out, learn the space, course,
totally.
dabble, and then come back and help Vantage kind of navigate the waters and catch me up to speed. Got to give a lot of credit to Josh Campos, who was on the pest control side, that played a significant role in Vantage. I was
Such
able
a stud, by the way.
get him to come take the reins and run with Vantage Solar. I needed the help because I was splitting my time between both pest and solar, and Josh did a fabulous job and got a lot of systems in place and helped us kind of get our footing, and became a pretty decent sales org.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so. By the way, yeah, Josh is the man. It's super cool. But no, I understand. I mean, again, similar situation. Getting into solar it was more it was more about necessity at the time, but definitely had some bumps and some hiccups along the way to get through.
It's rowdy.
And try to figure it out. I think one of the biggest things was getting guys' minds wrapped around the transition of getting immediate money and waiting a substantial amount of time for money, and learning the vast industry that is solar, man. So definitely a transitional moment. Let's talk about that, Tom. What is state of the industry right now for you?
Yeah.
What do you see? What are, I guess, throughout the course of the last 3 years and even right now, what is the industry telling you? What are you seeing?
I see unlimited potential. I see an industry that has so much legs, really a blank canvas. I don't hear a bunch of numbers. I think 6% market penetration so far, and the municipalities keep giving initiatives to drive solar renewable energy, and so I see it really just taking off. But today, the word that comes to mind is chaos.
Yeah.
That the industry's in chaos, that there was this mad rush to jump into the space. Really, the barrier to entry is very low. My son, 18-year-old son, could go knocking doors today legally selling solar without having any knowledge, and it's not one of those products that you can just go willy-nilly sling. A lot of education, a lot of training needs to take place in order to do it the right way, and I think greed has got the best of a lot of companies because they just look at production and volume and numbers, but these bad sales are coming to a head, and people are realizing the chaos that's coming from it.
You'd mentioned a couple different waves of solar that you kind of survived through. I remember them as well. This time is different. More and more people, more and more reps have caught in this bug. 2 or 3 years ago in specific, you mentioned a gold rush. It was a mad rush to the solar industry. You also mentioned the product of solar being very, very different than that of like an alarm or a pest control deal. $500 account on a customer. That's not life-changing,
nothing,
right?
yeah.
But when you can get into an industry with zero barrier to entry and you have the ability to seriously affect the lives of the people in front of you, you're kind of playing with fire. And so let's focus on that right now, because I know that from a consumer standpoint, when they're thinking about solar, and when they're specifically thinking about solar the way that we sell it door to door, they're terrified of reps and they're terrified of EPCs. For several different reasons.
It's a trigger word.
Yeah, it is.
Solar has become kind of a trigger word for consumers.
It is a product that is so beneficial to the consumer, to our nation. We need solar. There's a reason that there are, government tax credits and all these things that are being thrown at solar, at the industry. Consumers need it. The United States needs it. But right now, the availability to get it, or the sources to get it, people don't love it. And more importantly, or at least more relevant to you and I, or as relevant, I should say, reps are not in love with EPCs. So consumers and reps both don't love EPCs. Consumers don't like either of them. So phenomenal product, massive opportunity, muddy water.
Very muddy.
Right?
Very
Muddy water. It's in disarray. Its reps are bouncing from EPC to EPC, demanding a certain red line, bleeding them out. They operate out of scarcity mentality that I don't want to lose this network of reps, so I'm going to give them the cheese they're begging for. And then, one lawsuit later, one tariff, anything that comes as an obstacle in business, they don't have the capital to weather the storm because the the sales org, essentially put them in a bad position financially
Yeah.
and left them with a mess to clean up, and then they bounce to the next one. And that is what's happening in the space. Is it's creating a lot of I call them mercenaries. They're just in it for a quick check. They really don't care about the product. They don't care about the company they're working for.
Yeah.
They're just chasing that paycheck. And when it doesn't go perfect to this place, they go to the next. And now there's so much.
And
of
then
that
you've got
happening.
this consumer who they don't care about at all.
Could care less.
And they have
Left
a,
it away.
let's say $30, $40, $50, $60,000 loan on their name, and they probably don't even have a system.
Hasn't been hit PTO,
Yep.
or
Hasn't-
they
hasn't
don't
been
have
handled,
a
right.
proper
they
offset.
literally have no
tax
contact
credits were
for everyone.
explained.
All they have
terribly.
is Google to
Still
be able
getting a bill
to.
from the utility.
Yeah, and all the exactly. So now they have two bills, and all they can do is rely on Google to leave a bad review, hoping that the company reaches back out.
But at least they're waiting on their tax credit check,
Yep,
right?
sure.
That's not coming.
Yep.
It's not right. Or that at least it's not been explained properly.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And now, not all.
Right.
That's what's great and has given me hope is there's a lot of bad players in the space, but there's some really, really good players that see the opportunity and see past their nose from just a quick paycheck. That this industry has this industry has legs to grow and grow. But if we do it the right way, and if we allow this chaos to happen, severe regulations are going to come. The way that we do business is going to be limited. And so we have to kind of self-govern ourselves essentially and be good stewards of this industry that we believe in and love. One thing I don't want to miss out is I think sometimes too we forget how valuable solar is for consumers.
100%.
You look at what Puerto Rico, they went 8-9 months without power, without water.
Yes.
And now they just announced a huge solar initiative. Our first blitz out in Dallas was actually shortly after that storm came through and the power lines cracked they froze and cracked. They weren't poised to handle that kind of weather.
right, I
And
remember
they
that.
were out. I was knocking on doors. These homeowners were out 30, 60 days
you
without
imagine?
power. Had they had a system battery, they'd be set.
I would have freaked out.
Yeah.
I
I
can't
would
imagine.
have been the biggest baby.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much value. I mean,
Yeah.
we could go on, and I think if you lean into the purpose of solar, you can really get behind it and create a clear vision of why the world needs solar, why the world needs of us.
Tom, you hit on this a little bit before, but I want to shed some light on it because one of the things that I see is kind of a miss in the industry is you mentioned it. There's always, from a rep's standpoint, there's always a chase to the bottom of the red line, right? Get the absolute lowest red line you can. And from an EPC standpoint, they want as many sales forces they can possibly get, so they bend, twist, and almost break to try to give every single nickel. I think what needs to happen is there's got to be a meeting of the minds between EPCs and reps to understand what actually has to happen to build a proper EPC and what monies actually need to flow through that organization to properly staff it and to make the systems and processes really hum the way that they're supposed to. When a lot of these EPCs go out of business, you're often finding that they were starved out of business in the recruiting game. And then obviously you don't have the ability to staff up ops to make the pipelines go at the speed that reps want, right? And so there's got to be this meeting of the minds where there's a balance.
Absolutely. You want to be with a company that can weather the storm, that can sustain itself, that can grow,
Right.
that has the capital to get through inevitable things that are going to come your way. And if you look at these companies that were throwing out ridiculously low red lines, they're not around. Where are they?
Right.
And these reps had 30, 40, some 100 deals in the pipeline.
And that's what-
How well
right.
did that work out for you chasing that low red line? And a logical mind is if all these companies are paying this red line and these two outliers are paying this, something should be wrong in your mind
100%.
that they're desperate and that they're throwing their bottom line at you to try to save their business. But
And Tom, to that point, look, I don't want to cast it on the reps. Look, man, we have made it our business to train reps to be entrepreneurs.
we've enabled that behavior.
and even more important, we've trained them and equipped them with the skills to be entrepreneurs and to be persuasive and
Yep.
convincing and to be assets,
Yep.
right? So a lot of it's on the EPC when being able to say, hey, listen, let's push back a little bit and find a way to have longevity. Because look, I can give you the lowest red line in the world, but I may not be in business in 3 months for you to collect on your money.
It's absolutely all on the EPC because they made the deal and allowed this behavior to happen and allowed these bad sales practices to happen. And if more EPCs took a stance on how they allow business to come in the door and how they operate and how they pay, they'd have a lot more longevity.
I think the market sets itself. I think as solar continues to become this massively popular product, I think that EPCs are getting smarter. I think that they're market starts to set itself. But time will tell, right? As it stands right now, there's still a lot of turmoil. There's still a lot of fights to fight, man. We've got to make sure that we have longevity in this space. Again, the opportunity is so huge. So, Tom, let's segue into that, right? So, for the past 8 months, we've been building a business, man. We've both had massive sales organizations. All of us have had massive sales organizations over the years, and we've all been kind of running in separate directions, trying to figure out how to do this thing best. And about 8 months ago, we had a meeting of the minds and decided, look, it's one thing to control the sales force. We have to control the install piece for solar. We have to make sure that we have our hands on the wheel as well. It will take time. It will be a long, arduous road to make sure that it is a squeaky clean system. But we took on that task about 8 months ago. We held it together and we created what's now known as Aveyo. Tom, I want to talk about this personally. Again, we talked about you, your career, door-to-door Hall of Fame, 20 some odd years of doing phenomenal business. You've created entrepreneurs, you've created millionaires. You and Shannon have done some incredible things. You could have paired with anybody. You could have done whatever you wanted to do in the solar space. Why Aveyo? Why link up with Jeremy Hammond? Why link up with guys like myself and the Mark Crams and all these guys in the world? Why did you land here?
Man, great question. I like you said, I knew I wanted to get my hand on the wheel and eventually be able to control the customer experience. Instead of just being a sales org, I wanted to be able to have a say in how we conducted business like we did in our pest control companies. I like having the ability to pivot and not pass the buck that it falls on us, and wanted to be able to do that. I would say the collaboration with Aveyo was so organic and natural that I couldn't ignore how right it felt. It was an alignment with like-minded colleagues that have done really great things in the door-to-door space. They were looking for a home, a place to be proud of, to do it different than some of the other players in the industry. And so it just happened so fast and so organically to partner with Jeremy Hammond, Caliber, my buddy Mark Cram, Grant Miser, Caliber. They were a sales org. Vantage was a sales org. Jen was a sales org. Access. We've got how many now?
12.
That have all come together and said, look, we're better together than apart. Let's go win in this space. We've got the capital, the know-how, the connections, the right business minds to go really, really make our mark in this industry and do it the right way and clean up some of the filth in the industry and learn from those that have done it really well. There are some great players in the space, which gives us hope and where we can learn from. But Aveyo, stands for to be transparent. I see you. And that's what this industry needs is transparency in pay, why you're being paid, how you're being paid. We've got great tools that we brought into Aveyo to solve those pain points in the industry. Visibility on your pipeline, doing clean installs, making sure reps are selling perfect packets, that we clean up the filth in the industry. And one thing at Aveyo is we're not going to tolerate bad practices, and they happen, and you can't keep a pulse on everything. But when we do find them, we're gonna kick them out. We're not gonna build off of the premise of bad business.
Yeah, and Tom, I know you just briefly mentioned, we can just touch on this really quick. You're talking about transparency and pay and that the process, which is a massive key thing, especially in our industry for reps and for the consumer, so they both know where we're at. That software, let's talk about that just briefly. Sequify.
Yep.
Let's touch on that just really quick.
Yeah, we've utilized a software company called Sequify, and what Sequify essentially is automated pay, where you can see in real time what your Friday check is going to be, why. If adders gets thrown in, it'll automatically adjust. Your red line adjusts accordingly wherever you sell in the country, so that same margin's there. It's a game changer,
yeah.
And we've brought it into Aveyo, and it's given that transparent feel that everybody is desperately after.
Cool. So we're so excited to have that as a unique product at Aveyo.
I think it's a major pain point in the industry is transparency on pay, understanding where the pipeline is or where your deals are in the pipeline, and that communication. Probably the biggest bane of the existence of any rep that I've ever encountered. But I think it does a lot, Tom. And again, of course, we're always, trying to communicate to the rep and create the rep experience and make sure that everything is conducive to business as possible. But I think one of the major focuses and one of the lights that Aveyo brings to the industry is what it's doing for the consumers.
That's what.
Right? It's like, look, man, nothing pollutes quicker than a solar area. Look, you can rip somebody off with pest control and people will squawk and moan a little bit, but it's like, go to bed, you're cool the next day, right? Do the same thing with alarm to an extent. But man, you put a $70,000 mortgage on my roof and I've got a fixed income and my hope is to lower my bill. And now I'm getting double billed and I've got no visibility as to what's happening and no communication. I think the biggest concern right now for our industry's sake is the consumers, man, the people buying these products.
Yeah, you've got to lean into that and really understand how much that can impact a consumer if it's not sold the right way, not installed the right way, not explained the right way.
Yep.
And the industry needs to clean up its sales practices, and we're going to make a commitment at Aveyo that we're going to try our hardest to make sure that reps are educated before they go out there and start slinging, that they know the ins and outs, that what they say is actually what's going to happen, and deliver a first-class experience to homeowners. And we're doing that today. We're the new kids in the industry, but we're doing big things right now. We've got the foundation to scale. We're poised to become a nationwide EPC very quickly. We're climbing the charts already on the top 100, but we're doing it with the right people in the right way.
The right way, that's what's key.
Last question, Tom. Before we wrap this thing up, where do you see the industry? Because right now, I guess let me preload this question a little bit. Go back 18 months ago, banks were a little bit more, I guess, for us. I guess in terms of what they charge to finance these loans, dealer fees have gotten out of control. Interest rates are out of control. The state of the industry from the financial aspect is substantially different than what it was 18 months ago. Do you see any change over the next 12 months? Do you see some of these things coming back down to earth? What can we predict, if there is such a thing, over the next 12 months? What do you see happen?
I think it's going to continue to get shook up. I think what solar looks like today is going to become completely different than what it looks like a year from now. We've already seen such rapid changes. Again, it is in chaos, and so I think it's going to clean up. It has to. It can't continue this way, or it's going to get heavily regulated, and who knows what's going to happen at that point if the feds step in, and they already have really start to dictate how the solar industry is ran. So we've got to take accountability and do it the right way, but it's going to continue to evolve. But I think solar's got years and years and years and years of legs on it, and we're just in the infant stages. And in the infant stages, there is always going to be chaos. Everyone's still trying to figure it out. Everyone's still trying to navigate the waters and find their footing and find the appropriate tech. And I think you're going to see it stabilize. I think it's going to get cleaner and better, and we're in the wild west right now of it.
That's right. I think there's a lot of wisdom to that, man. Time will tell, but I think it's important to be pivotal. I think it's important to keep your head on a swivel and adapt with the times, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We got a lot of EPCs right now that have floundered, a lot of that have gone out of business. We're building one to last, and I'm excited about it. Guys, we'll be back. We're going to talk about a lot of things happening in the future. We're going to talk, again, everything industry relevant. We've got some great guest speakers here in the future. All right, we'll catch you all next time. Donnie, before we go, tell the listeners where they can find the show.
Yeah, you can find our Tomorrow Podcast on any of the podcast channels. Hit the subscribe button. You can find us on YouTube. And not only that, you can find us, you can hop into our warehouse on aveyosales.com. Check out that website. It's pretty cool.
Aveyosales.com is sick.
Yeah, it definitely is. I will say it is one of the best
It's
websites that have ever been made.
It's unique.
It's fresh.
Man. It's unique. It's worth a search, man. It's like something I've never seen before.
For sure.
Guys, it's been dope. Tom, appreciate your time.
Yeah,
man.
thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
You're the truth,
Appreciate
brother.
you guys.
We will catch y'all on the flip. See you.